Hello everyone. So today we will be starting with a new chapter, that is human eye and the colorful world. So this is in continuation with your light unit. So we have understood about the ray diagrams and formation of image, nature of image, size of image, magnification, etc. When a reflection and refraction case occur. So we have understood all the basic physics involved in formation of images by lenses or mirrors. So in this chapter, we will be seeing how daily phenomena occurring in our life are as a result of these laws of light only, and we will be seeing how how is the construction of eye is there and how the eye actually works. So I told you in the last chapter that when human eye receives eye human eye receives light, then we are able to see the whatever the things are present in our surroundings. So first of all, in this chapter, the first thing is we need to discuss about the human eye. So we will be discussing about human eye, how its construction is done. So let me first tell you the general construction of human eye. So let us consider this is your let us say eyeball, and on the front of the eyeball we have a opening like this, not a opening, like a bulging part like this. So this bulging part is what we call as the this is called as the cornea. So first time where the light is entering the eye, and that part is known as cornea. So this is a transparent membrane. This is a transparent membrane from where the light will actually enter, and most of the refraction of light will be happening in cornea only. So this is a point where the light is first time interacting with the human eye, which is the cornea. And behind the cornea there is a colorful diaphragm, which we call as the this is called as the iris actually. So this is called as the iris, and behind this we have these structures, or we have these special type of muscles called as the ciliary muscles. And from these ciliary muscles we have some ligaments which connect to the lens, right? So these are nothing but some of the this also, right? This is called as a suspensory ligaments. So what happens, they work in coordination. These suspensory ligaments and ciliary muscles are what responsible for changing this focal length of this lens. So you can see that this is your eye lens, right? And you can also observe that the this eye lens is convex in nature. You can already see that this is a convex lens by the shape of this. And behind this eyeball you have this as the retina part, okay. And here we are having an opening where from where these nerves attached to the retina will be going towards the brain, and this is called as the optic nerve. So what will happen, since you can see this lens is like a this eye lens is made up of this eye lens is a transparent flexible jelly flexible crystalline lens. So this is a flexible material, right? Eye lens is made up of a flexible, it is like it is a stretchable kind of a it is made up of a stretchable kind of a material which is transparent, is the eye lens. And retina is what, it acts as a screen. So this is your screen. So what happens, whenever the rays of light enter, they first interact with cornea. So cornea is what bending some the light somewhat, and then it will strike the lens. Now before striking this lens there is a thing called iris. Now let me draw the front view of eyes. Suppose from this front view you see structure like this, right? there is a small opening, and you see this is like a colored. Some people have brown eyes, so this is what will define the brown color. Some have blue, some have green. So this is what called as the. This is nothing but your iris, and this is small hole in between. This is called as the pupil. This is the small opening, right? So what is the function of this opening is that, so this is your eye, like this is your front view of eye. So what happens? So this is your iris, and iris is what is it? It is a colored membrane, colored diaphragm. Sorry, means that it will, this diaphragm, this iris is going to control the size of the pupil. So what happens? Suppose there is a very bright day. Suppose a very bright day is there, and there is too much of light. So what your eye needs is that already there is too much of light in your ambience. So only some amount of light needs to enter your eye to see you proper, to so that you can see properly. Okay. So you might have observed that when you move from a dark room to a very outside a very sunny day, then you move from a low light condition to a very bright light conditions. Suddenly there is a like a very irritation in your eyes, and your eyelids you close it automatically. What happens when you were in the dark condition? So dark means what? In dark conditions means that low light condition. So in low light condition or less intensity of light is there. Okay. In low light condition, what happens? The more amount of light should enter your eye. So what this iris does, this iris will adjust in such a way that it will relax. So what will happen? This pupil will become larger. So more amount of light can enter this pupil, right? Now suddenly if you go outside on the sunny day, so what happens? This iris takes some time to make the pupil size small. Once there is a your you have a sense that if there is a suddenly there is too much of light, then what happens? This iris will shrink and it will try to close smaller this pupil. So the time duration in which this till this pupil becomes smaller, till that time light, too much light will be entering your eye and you feel that irritation. Same happens when you move from a well lit sunny day, very bright sunny day, to a very dark room. You are not able to see anything properly when you enter, when you are outside on a sunny day, and then you enter a room. Then you are not able to see things properly because outside your iris was adjusted in such a way that the pupil was smaller because there was too much size. And the moment you suddenly enter the darker room or the low light lit condition or the low ambient light condition, in that case what happens? Suddenly your pupil size is of still a small size, and for a small amount of time the iris will adjust, the pupil size will increase slowly, and till that time you won't be able to see properly. After some time the pupil will be back to the larger, it will widen up, and then more of the light will be entering your pupil and you can see properly. So this is how iris and pupil actually, so iris controls what? So you can write this. So we can write this, that what iris is, what it is, controls the amount of amount of light entering the eye by adjusting the size of pupil, right? So by iris itself, what it does, it controls the amount of light entering the eye by making this pupil smaller or larger according to the ambient light condition. So this is your part of the iris, right? Now what happens after this? The light will be striking your lens. Now lens have an arrangement of these ciliary muscles, and these ciliary muscles are attached to sensory ligaments and to the lens. So what happens? Let me tell you this concept of lens, right? Suppose there is a convex lens, right? So this is your convex lens, and this is also your convex lens. right? So in both these lens, let me draw it more properly, right? So this is also a convex lens, this is also a convex lens. Now let me mark the principal axis, right? Suppose this is the principal axis. So what will happen? Since this is a thinner lens, you can see this is a thinner lens and this is a thicker one, right? So when rays of parallel light are traveling, what will happen? This is a thinner lens, so the time or the time duration for which the light will be traveling in this glass piece, this lens is smaller because this is thinner. So what will happen? Less with less angle it will be bending. So suppose it will be reaching the, suppose this is the focus point of this lens, right? This is the focus point of this L1. This is the focus. So they will be meeting here. Now in this case, if this is the parallel lines coming in this L2 case, right? Then what will happen? Since more of the time the light is traveling, this is a thicker lens. So for more duration, the light will be traveling in this denser medium and the amount of bending will be more. So what will happen if it bends with a more angle? What will happen? It will converge very quickly. It will converge will be very quickly. That is, this will have more converging power. The converging power of this lens is what? More. And what about the focal length? Suppose this is the optical center of this one. This is the optical center of this one. So this is say f1 and this is, you can see, f2. So you can easily see that f1 is greater than f2. You can easily see. So what happens when thinner is the lens, larger is the focal length. So that means you need this kind of a case when the object is very far away from the lens, right? When the object is far away, very far away from the eye lens, your lens should be thinner so that its focal length is increased, and when the ray of light are coming parallel to the principal axis, they will be meeting at the proper point on the retina, because exactly if these rays converge at the point of retina, then a proper image will be formed, right? So to change this, when the human eye can change the focal length of its lens, and this changing of focal length, right, changing of focal length, the ability, you can better write it as this ability of eye lens to eye lens to change its focal length, right, depending on the object, is called as power of accommodation. So what it is doing? Power of accommodation, right? Power of accommodation. So the human eye lens has the power to accommodate its focal length, right? Suppose the object is near, right? The meaning is how this happens in the human eye. In the human eye, there is a thing called ciliary muscles, right? And these ciliary muscles, when in the relaxed condition, what happens? This is in the relaxed condition. So the eye lens is like this, right? So this is a relaxed condition, relaxed ciliary muscles. So what happens when the ciliary muscles are relaxed? So it what happens? The suspensory ligaments are such that the lens is in this shape. Now what happens if these are get stretched, right? So this is your how small this suspensory ligaments becomes, and this becomes your lens. This. So you can see the lens has become thick. So this is stretched ciliary muscles. So what has happened? When the object is very far away, right? When the object is very far away, let us say this is your retina point here. Okay, for this case, and for this case, we have retina point here. So this is your retina, right? So what happens when the rays are coming? When the rays are coming parallel to your principal axis of this lens, what happens? They need to converge very slightly, right? Little convergence is needed. So that is why this relaxed muscle condition is one where you need to see far by object. So when you are seeing a very far object, you will not feel any strain in your eye to see that object, to focus that object, right? Now, but what happens? Suppose an object is placed very near to the eye. Okay, this was a different case. Now, when an object is placed near to the eye, what will happen? The rays of light will be coming like that. Okay, and these are way too spreading like this. So your eye lens needs more converging power to focus on this retina, because retina distance between retina and this lens will remain same, because human eye is the same. You are not changing your eye, right? You are not changing your eye or eye lens or whatever distance between retina and lens to focus the objects placed at different place. You are using your same eye. So what happens? The focal length of eye lens needs to be adjusted. So what happens? Now, if this object is placed very near, what will happen? These rays are coming in a diverging way, right? They are very spreading like this. So your eye lens should be of more converging power. Now, what happens when the object is near? Your ciliary muscles are stretched like this. They are stretched like this. Suppose these two are ciliary muscles, and they will be stretched like this. So what happens? The lens become thicker. Like consider like a cube of sponge is there, and two springs are kept on the top and bottom. So when the springs are relaxed, that is the ciliary muscles are relaxed, the sponge is in its, the length of a sponge is like this. Now when you are compressing the spring, what happens? The sponge will spread like this. So same happens with the lens. When the ciliary muscles push, like stretch, the ciliary muscles get stretched, this lens becomes thicker. And now the nearby object can properly focus this ray of light, refracted ray of light to the retina. So this is how your power of accommodation is. So ciliary muscles adjust, and they change the focal length of your eye lens, and you are able to see the objects placed very near or far from the eye. Now there is a limitation to human eye that you can see very far by objects very clearly, right? You can see very far by objects very clearly. So that is why there is no certain point up to which you can define that, hey, up to this far you can see. So that is why the far point, that is the point up to which you can see, is considered as infinity. And the near point, okay, and the near point, right, the near point up to which your eye can see clearly is generally considered as 25 centimeter. That the object is placed 25 centimeter lesser than this distance to your eye, then your eye won't be able to focus that object, and you won't be able to see very clearly. Why this happens? Because there is a limit up to which your ciliary muscles can stretch, right? If the objects come near, the ciliary muscle will get stretch, the lens become thicker and thicker and thicker. Ultimately, there will be a point after which the ciliary muscles will find it difficult to get stretched and decrease the focal length of your eye lens. So that is why that point is what, 25 centimeters. So beyond 25 centimeter, your eye, general human eye or a normal human eye, is difficult to focus objects clearly. So this is the normal near point of the eye, and this is the normal far point of the eye. So when the near point of the eye, far point of the eye get disturbed, like, then we call that that eye is suffering from a defect of vision, right? We have already seen the uses of convex and concave lens, where we have seen that about myopia, that is short sightedness, and hypermetropia, that is long sightedness. But we will be seeing that defect of vision in detail later. For now, we will be, you have understood this concept of ciliary muscles and how this is responsible for power of accommodation of human eye. Right, so this is how your eye is able to see properly. Now, one more thing, between this eye lens and retina, there is a fluid, right? There is a jelly-like fluid, and we call it as vitreous humor. So you can also mention when you draw a diagram, and this there is also a fluid between this portion, right, between the cornea and this eye lens, and this is called as the aqueous humor, and this is a more a watery kind of a fluid, right? So these are filled in between these spaces. So we name these vitreous humor or aqueous humor. Now, one more thing about retina, you can see that the rays of light are traveling like this, and then they are converging at retina. You can see, right? So they are converging at retina. It means what? So retina is acting as a screen, and you can see for real these rays are meeting at retina. So what is the nature of image in a human eye? It's real image, and obviously I told you that real image will be inverted. So on the retina of human eye the image is real and inverted, but we know that when we are seeing, we are not seeing the objects upside down, they are not inverted, they are erect, although the image is real. How this happens? So this happens what? When this image information, when the retina forms an image, these signals are sent to the optic nerve, through the optic nerve to the brain, and your brain processes this information in such a way that this inverted image will be sensed by you as erect only. So there is a brain processing involved there, and then you are able to see the object in an erect manner. Although the image formed at the retina is real and inverted, but your brain does the rest of the job, and you are feeling that the object is erect only. So that's the uh, nature of image is somebody else, and the nature of human eye lens is, and the type of eye lens is what? It is a convex lens only. So refraction occurs in two places in a human eye. Some refraction occurs in cornea also, because it is a transparent membrane, the outer first place where the light will be interacting the human eye, and then through cornea it will be going to the eye lens, where it will be getting some of the refraction again, and the eye lens will be adjusted by the ciliary muscles, which is called as the power of accommodation, because the eye lens has the ability to change its focal length depending on the object of interest, right? So this is your all about your human eye, right? And one more thing about retina also. So these retina is having a light sensitive cells. So one is rod shaped and other is cone shaped. So these have some specific working, right? Now rod shaped is responsible for the intensity, or you can say the brightness, right? How bright an object is, that will be sensed. The brightness is to be sensed by this rod shape. So the brightness information is sensed by this rod shaped cells, and cone shaped cells are responsible for color sensation, right? These are responsible for color. So when is proper amount of brightness is there, right? If a proper amount of light enters, then only this cone shaped cells will be able to distinguish between the colors. Suppose on a night, if a vehicle is coming and you can't exactly tell the color of the vehicle, because in dark it will appear to, everything will appear to in the black tone when there is not much brightness, right? So rod shaped, so these two types of cells are present on many numbers on the retina, and these are the ones which are providing this brightness and color information, which will be perceived to you as the image, and that will be sent to your brain. So this is how your this is how your optics work in the case of human eye. Now let us see some of the defects of human eye. So the first defect, as we know, is myopia, or we call it as short sightedness, right? So short sightedness means what? That cannot see far objects clearly, right? So what will happen in this defect of vision? The we the person, if he or she is suffering from this type of defect, they cannot see the far objects clearly. So suppose this is your lens of your eye, right? Lens of a person's eye is suffering from myopia. So the far point of a normal eye is infinity. That is, at far point, the person up to infinity, that is up to far distance, they can see clearly under normal condition. But suppose this is the retina, and now what happens? An object is placed at far points. Let us say consider this as the far point of this eye, right? So what will happen till this far point? Suppose an object is placed at this point. This is the point up to which this eye can see. If the object goes further beyond this point, then this person cannot see this object clearly. So this is the far point, means the last point up to which this person can see clearly. So this is the point where the image will be forming at retina, right? The image is now formed at retina in this case, right? So this is the far point. Now suppose what happens, this is the case, and now instead of this far point, this was the far point, right? Instead of this far point, the something is coming from the object is placed at infinity, right? So these parallel lines, parallel rays coming parallel to the principal axis are coming, and this is your retina. So now what happens in myopia? The reason for occurrence of myopia is two cases, right? So two reasons are possible that why a person is suffering from myopia. The first reason is that the focal length is lesser, or focal length is lesser, or that means converging power converging power is more. That means what? In this case, suppose an object is placed far away from the object. So in that case, suppose these are your ciliary muscles. So if an object is placed at far away, these must be completely relaxed. So the eye lens will be like this. It will be slim, and these are the your suspensory ligaments, and these your ciliary muscles are perfectly relaxed. But what happens if this due to some reason these ciliary muscles will not be able to relax properly, right? So somewhat they are still stiff, they are not relaxed properly. So this remains a bit thicker, this lens remains a bit thicker. However, it should be much thinner. So if and only if it is a thinner lens, then the focal length of this lens will be more, because we already know that focal length then in this case will be at the further far away, focal point will be further far away, because the diverging power of this converging power of this lens will be less. Okay, so what happens, this focal length is lesser or converging power is more, or the second reason is that your eyeball, right, eyeball size increases, increased or large eyeball size, right? You can see that increased eyeball size. Suppose the eyeball size is more, now what will happen? We know that this is still a much thicker lens. That means the focal length of this lens still is not up to the mark, that it is not sufficient enough to form the image at retina. So what will happen? The these rays will still combine. These rays will meet before the retina. So here no image is formed. So that is why a far object cannot be formed. Now for its correction, what we need to do for its correction is that this is the lens, right? This is the lens of the eye, and this is your far point. Now we need to do a thing. What we need to do, we need to place, we can place a concave lens. I told you that we correct this defects of vision by using a concave lens. Now suppose I placed a concave lens in front of this. Now what will happen? These rays of light which were coming parallel initially, what will happen? They will come like this. Okay, they will be coming like this. That is fine. They will be coming like this. not up till this. They will be coming up to this lens, right? And now what will happen, since we know that this is a diverging lens, so these rays will tend to diverge, right? Like this, they will be diverging. Suppose, and then let me increase the size of the lens so that it can be depicted more properly, right? Suppose this is your eye lens, right? Now what happens, since these rays were parallel initially and the converging power of lens was more, so what happened, these rays, the refracted rays converged before the retina, that is they meet before the retina and they are not forming an image. Now what happens, since these rays are now a bit diverged because of this concave lens, now what happens, this is now efficient enough to form this image on the retina. So what happens, this will be, now we will adjust the power of this lens such that your, this is your retina, right, and the rays are coming like this, so you will feel that an virtual image is formed here, right? A virtual image will be formed at the far point of this myopic eye. So the total objective for correction is that we will place a concave lens in front of a myopic eye, or a eye which can see only short or nearby objects clearly. That is, the far point of this eye is not infinity, it is somewhat uh, uh, less than the infinity. So what happens, our objective is to uh, form the image, far by object image, on this f dash point. So what we do, we place a convex concave lens, and at this time what happens, these rays will be meeting at the retina, and it will appear to our eye that these rays are coming from this point, right? This f dash point. So image will be formed at this f dash point. A virtual image will be formed. So it is because of these two reasons, either the converging power is more, right? Ciliary muscles are not relaxed properly, that is why the converging power is more, the lens remains thick, and the focal length is now lesser, that is the reason. Or the eyeball size is due to, like, it is what somewhat elongated or somewhat like increases the normal size, then what happens, the distance between retina and eye lens will be increased. So that can be also one of the reasons. So these are the two reasons which can result in a myopic eye. Now we need to understand that sometimes in numerically questions will be asked on this topic. So what we need to understand is that, now you know that normal near point of human eye is what? It is 25 centimeter. Now we need to do what? For a myopic eye, your questions will be asked like that, say, suggest the power of the lens which is suitable for this correcting this myopic eye. So they will be giving a far point, right? They will be giving a far point. So that point, what is far point? That is beyond this point. That is the distance is further away from this point. The myopic eye can't see clearly. So we need to correct it. So for correcting, what should be the object distance? It should be infinity. Suppose we are placing the object at infinity, so the image must be placed at far point, right? And that we will find with this focal length, right? So we will use infinity as the u, v as the far point of this myopic eye which will be given, and then we will be finding the focal length. So this is how a myopic eye gets corrected, right? Understood? So what is happening? The far point of this eye is not infinity. The near point is correct. The near point is 25 centimeter. But the far point is what? Less than infinity. Okay, this is for myopic eye. So these are the conditions for a myopic eye. In numericals, we will be discussing this. Right. Now let us see the other defect of vision, which is your, let me write it further at the top, which is hypermetropia, or we call it as far sightedness, right? Now in this case, what happens, suppose this is your eye lens, right, and this is your retina. Far-sightedness means what? The person can see far by objects clearly. Far objects clearly visible. That is how you can learn. Hypermetropia means far-sightedness. Far-sightedness means far objects are clearly visible. So nearby objects are not clearly visible, right? So what happens? For this, we can understand that nearby objects are not visible properly. So near point is what? We know that the near point of a normal human eye is 25 centimeters. So is this near point is what? Near point is greater than 25 centimeter, right? And what about the far point? Far point is perfect of this eye. Far point is infinity only. There is no problem with the far point, but the near point is what? It is greater than 25 centimeters. So we mark the near point such as here n dash, which is greater than n, which will be somewhere here. Okay. So this is greater than n dash. This is n dash is greater than n. So if this is 25 centimeter, so our the for hypermetropic eye, this near point shifts. Okay, so what does that mean? So it means that up to this near point, suppose an object is placed at this near point, then this will be perfectly forming the image, right? This is the meaning, right? Now what is happening is, suppose the object is brought further closer to this near point. This near point of n dash is what? Let me mark. Near point of hypermetropic eye. So what happens now in this case, because as the object is now bring closer, so there can be two reasons, right? For why hypermetropia occurs, why it occurs, it there can be two reasons. The first reason is that it can be related to the your some weakening of ciliary muscles, right? Weakening of ciliary muscles, or you can say this as that the converging power converging power of eye lens reduced, right? Or you can say is what? Focal length is you can say the range of focal length is what? Increase. So my meaning is that as the object is now coming closer, the conciliary muscles must do what? The converging power of lens must be more, because why? As the object is coming nearer and nearer, the lens must become thicker in order to converge this refracted rate at the proper place, so that is on the retina. But now happens what? These ciliary muscles must do what? Suppose this is the case, and they must compress like this, but they are not able to, so that this lens becomes thicker. Okay, this is your ciliary muscles, right? And this is your suspensory ligament. So the meaning is that this is not observed in this hypermetropic eye, because there is weakening of ciliary muscles due to some reasons. Okay, so this ciliary muscles gets weakened, so it is not able to stretch properly. So that is why the lens doesn't become much thicker and it remains thin. And what happens now, as the focal length of this lens will be now more, with what should be when the object is moved closer. Suppose this is your lens of the eye, this is your retina, right? Now this is your near point. Now suppose the object is brought further closer. Let us say it is brought at the near point of the hypermetropic eye, right? Then what happens? Now in this case, the rays will be like this. And since it is much thinner, it should be, if the object is at near point, right? Near point, that means n. That is the for a normal in normal condition. And is what? Near point for normal condition, that is 25 centimeter. So at n, if the object is brought, then what happens? Since the converging power of this lens is less, what will happen? These refracted ray won't be meeting at the retina, and they will be passing the retina and they will be meeting somewhere behind. So no image is observed. That is why it is far-sightedness. As the object is brought closer to the original near point or a normal near point of a human eye, the image won't be formed. So we need to correct this. So what we need to do? So how you know the lens? You can see easily that the rays are going further back of this retina. Now we need to push these rays to the retina only. So we need to converge these rays more. And what can be done to converge these rays more is that if you place a convex lens or a converging lens in front of the eye lens. So how you do this? Suppose this was your lens, right? And now what you do, you will put another convex lens here, right? So now what will happen? Suppose an object is placed at the near point, right? And this was your, as I marked, this was your near point for this hypermetropic eye. Now your object is to form this image at the retina or somewhere at this point. So now what will happen? Suppose the rays are coming like this, right? So what will happen? They will converge. They will converge like this, and then they will converge like this. That they will be meeting at now the perfect point. That is the this lens will also be converging this ray, and this lens will also be converging this ray. So as the cumulative effect of these lenses, the image will now be now the rays will be meeting at retina, right? You can see that these rays are coming from this near point, this near point of this eye, right? It appears to your eye that this image is forming at again and dash. So what you have done? You have uh, you have been successful in creating an image for this hypermetropic eye at that in end dash point. All right. So now this object is now visible to this person. So this is how you correct it, right? Now let me clarify that. Now since far point of this eye is what I told you that I already mentioned that the far point is infinity and the near point is what? It is actually greater than 25 centimeter. Now we need to do what? What is the worst case for this hypermetropic eye? How close the object can be placed? What is the worst possible distance for this eye so that the object is in the worst scenario most blurred visible? So that distance will be at the near point. So we will consider the object distance to be placed at near point, right? If someone say asks you, hey, suggest a focal length, suggest a lens of proper focal length to correct this vision. So to find that focal length, what we will do? We will place the object at the worst possible case for this hypermetropic eye, which is at the near point. So that is the closest point where we can put a object where the recommended distance is, that is 25 centimeters. Since this is on the in the against the direction, we are measuring against the direction of the incident ray, so that is why negative sign, right? Because of sign convention. So we will take it as minus 25 centimeter. And where the image must be formed now? It must be formed on the near point of hypermetropic eye, right? So this is the substitution you will be making while you are in looking to correct this defect of vision, and then you will find the focal length 1 by f equal to 1 by b minus 1 by e. So this is how you correct this hypermetropic eye. That is, a far sightedness can be corrected by using a convex lens, and a short sightedness, that is a myopia condition, that can be corrected by using a concave lens. And I told you why these defects of vision occur. Now there is another kind of a defect which we can consider, which is presbyopia. Right. So this is you can consider this occurs in mostly you know old people. What happens? This is a, you can consider hypermetropia in old people, right? You can call this. So how you can call this? So what happens in hypermetropia? You can see far by objects clearly. Okay, so you can see far by objects clearly. So what happens? Why they are not able to see nearby objects? So as I told you, when the object is very near to the eye, what happens? The ciliary muscles must be more stretched to make this lens much thicker, right? Much thicker. This lens becomes much thicker. So what happens in old people? The ciliary muscles are what? Ciliary muscles lose. You can say it loses its strength. So ciliary muscle is not able to stretch properly, right? Stretch properly. So what happens due to aging? Due to aging, since hypermetropia was not, we were not telling that due to aging it is happening. In presbyopia, we consider that due to aging, what happens in old people? This ciliary muscle won't be stretched properly. So if it is not stretched properly, this lens will still be very thin, or you can say it will still have more focal length than required, and that is why when the object is bring closer, then the ciliary muscles won't be putting the lens in the shape which is required to form the image in case of a nearby object. So that is what occurs in that is what we call as the presbyopia. Now there are some condition. If suppose there is a special case, if a person suffers from both myopia, right, and hypermetropia. In that condition, what, for myopic eye you need a concave lens, right? And for this hypermetropia you need a convex lens. So what we do, we make bifocal lens. We make bifocal lens. Then we use what? Then we use bifocal lens. Bifocal lens means what? Bifocal means two focal lens. That means in these kinds of specs, suppose this is a spec we are making, right? So in this kind of specs, what happens? Suppose this is your. So what happens? The bottom part of the lens, this part is a convex lens, right? These are the spectacles, right? So in this bottom part, this is what? This is made a convex lens, okay, to read the nearby things. Because what happens in nearby things will be read by this convex lens for the hypermetropic condition where the only far by objects are visible. So it will be corrected by this, and this lens is taken as a concave lens. So this lens will be used in when the object is, let us say, uh, very far away, and for myopia we will be using this concave lens. So for correcting combination of myopia and hypermetropia, we are using this bifocal lens, right? So if somebody asks you if a person is suffering from both myopia and hypermetropia, or if a person is suffering from both far-sightedness and long-sightedness, then we recommend a combination. That is means, because this convex lens is also having some focal length, this concave lens is also some other focal length. So there are two lenses which are having two different focal lengths. So that why bi meaning is two. So that is why bifocal lens. So that is the meaning that for correcting two defects we are using this type of lens, that is bifocal lens. So this was all about the defects of vision, about the human eye, how it works and how these defects of vision are corrected. So in the next class we will be seeing some of the natural phenomena, or we will consider a prism, and we will see how dispersion of light happens in the next class. So we will continue in the next class. Thank you.